Good morning, everybody. Today, what we are doing is we are pulling apart criteria one. We are dissecting it. Now, in the context of this thing, what I've decided to do is I am going to do criteria one as though I were working on the social distancing laser hat. All right, so obviously I didn't make this. This is someone else's project, but however, I'm going to model my answers based on what's up there. So identifies the problem, the situation, the opportunity, or the need. Well, in this case, maintains a social. So the current situation regarding COVID-19 requires that people maintain social distancing of a minimum of 1.5 meters. As this distance is estimated sometimes, it is useful for a device to assist in marking out your without creating all right. So it doesn't, now obviously you guys might want to put a little bit more emphasis or a little bit more in detail in the describing the situation. However, I'm just simply modeling what's expected for each criteria. So developing the design brief for an integrated controlled system. So ideally, the device would measure out the required social distancing minimum and mark a person's territory using a non-physical method. Universal to all. Should be universal to all persons and associated body types. All right, so the device should be able to adjust the angle of the laser so that if the user's height changes, the laser can adjust to maintain that 1.5 meter radius. All right, so as you can see, what I've written out here is a design brief that outlines the basic requirements for what your project should do, ideally. All right, this is going to be a completely idealized situation. A person's come to you saying, I need this particular thing, so how can you help me meet this requirement? What can you do to give us that requirement? All right. Minimum social distance of 1.5 meters. Does not impede the user physically. The laser is mounted on a servo, allowing it to suit any person of any height. So this is the important bit. This is the real important bit. This is where you get most of your marks when you are reviewing and you're coming back to this. These criteria are what you are going to hold yourself against in criteria 7 and 8. So in the case of this hat, the criteria needs to be: one, must be able to I'll move this up a little bit for you guys. All right, so it must be able to non-obstructively create a 1.5 circle zone of isolation. Nobody's allowed. So it's make it perfectly clear. I can't go into that space. And if everybody's got that, then hey presto, nobody comes within 1.5 meters. Everybody knows where it is. Nobody gets corona. Ideally. All right. So it must be able to non-obstructively create. So that's what the laser's doing. Must not physically impede the user. So if someone was making like a laser belt, then having something constantly spinning around your waist might physically impede you and it might get in your way. The idea is that the device is able to maintain the distance without getting in your way. You're supposed to be able to just go about your daily life, walking around, etc. You've just got this laser on your head going. Woo! Different. So, if a person's standing up, what's the angle of the laser going to need to be? Is it going to need to be shallow or steep? What's the angle going to need to be in terms of off perpendicular to the ground? All right, because when you think about it, this is really an application of Pythagoras. All right, because if the laser is pointing straight down, if the person's of a particular height, if the laser aims at a particular angle, then that horizontal distance is what you're looking for. So if you aim at the right angle, the 1.5 meters can be created. Then all you have to do is rotate it. But if the person's height changes, then that angle is going to need to change to keep that 1.5 meters consistent. All right? So, must be able to non-obstructively create. If it's very noisy, would you describe that as being obstructive? If it is preventing the person from conducting proper activity because it's super noisy, because it's going, then we need to be able to make sure that it is operating quietly. So it must be suitable for indoor and outdoor usage. Now, you might want to get specific about that because indoor and outdoor usage, they're going to require different things. What's going on behind there? All right. But what you'll notice is that some of these are actually subjective. Must be suitable for different user heights. What does that mean in the context of the design? Now, when you go to the later criteria, you should be able to elaborate on why your design is suitable for the different user heights. What feature does it have? All right. So these are going to be my 4 criteria for now. Referencing factors that influence the creation and use of the system. All right. So creation and use of the system will be mounted on a user. Who's to say it has to be a human user? Social distancing dogs. Ability to the ability must be mounted on user, so therefore must have an ability to not fall off the user. The laser required to create the radius give yourself a cool little acronym, CZI, the circle zone of isolation. Okay, so in response to your question, would you also talk about how outside factors like other people can affect your device? I would say yes, which is why, I mean, for example, I've mentioned it in here that the device can affect other people and that may cause problems. So what I have to do is I have to make sure that what I select to do my work with is going to be appropriate. All right. Now, it depends on what you mean by outside factors. Now, if you're building a uh, a bike, smart bike, whatever that can do the charging, of course, if people are going to tamper with your device, then I believe that's just a reality that you have to accept when you're working with bikes. Some people are just going to mess with your belongings. All right. So this isn't a comprehensive explanation of all criteria one. However, I feel as though this is a good example that you can work with as a model answer. What goes for each thing? Ideally, what would happen is you would elaborate, you would have some introduction paragraphs explaining what's going on, and then you would embed this inside your PowerPoint.